Hi everyone, my name is Suzanne and I'm a Chinese metaphysics master in Hong Kong. Today I'm going to do a little introduction into Sun Tzu's Art of War. Sun Tzu was a Chinese philosopher, very famous for devising strategies to win against enemies. And back in the day, obviously, that was in a warfare mostly, but nowadays this is often used in MBA courses when it comes to analyzing the competition, the market environment, and how you can actually get the upper hand in a competitive situation. So this is very interesting, and Sun Tzu has devised a lot of strategies on how to do that. In fact, there are 36 stratagems that are associated with Sun Tzu and that are telling you in great detail what you need to do in a competitive situation, what your options are, and how you need to act and react. Now, today we're not going to talk about those 36 stratagems. That would be a long course, but I may be taking this up in the future and just talk about one by one. However, today we are actually going to talk about what Sun Tzu referred to as the 5 decisive factors of success when you are dealing with a competitive situation. And obviously, we are going to look at this in the more in a business sense. So if you're a business owner, or even if you are climbing the career ladder, you can actually apply this and look at where your weaknesses are. Because according to Sun Tzu, there are 5 factors that can basically make or break your success story. So you need to be very aware of where your weakest point lies, and you can then turn that into a strength once you work on this particular aspect. And again, we are using this mostly in business. We are using this in a career situation. So this can be very helpful to actually point out what you need to work on most based on your Bazi chart. You may be unaware of this particular flaw, or you may be aware of it or somewhat aware of it, but not really know how to relate this to your actual career. So what you first need to do is plot your Bazi chart. So you go to this link that is here on the screen. I'm also going to post this in the notes to this video, so you can just copy paste. And then you enter your date and time of birth. Now, it would be great if you have the time of birth. If you don't have your time of birth, it may be a little bit less accurate, but you can still use this particular method. So once you've entered your key details, you will get a Bazi chart, and on the right-hand side, you will get this particular table that says Bazi Analytics. Now, what you need to look at is here, what it says here, the 5 factors, yeah, because we are looking at the 5 factors. And as you can see here, there are 5 elements: wood, earth, fire, water, and metal. You will have the same 5 elements listed there, but at a different percentage. As you can see here, the wood element is at 27%, the resource is at 25%, which is earth, 20 is fire element. Now, the distribution between wealth, resource, influence, output, companion may be different. So for you, the wood element could be resource. So don't focus too much on this middle part here, yeah? This may otherwise be a little bit confusing. You just need to look at what percentage is the wood element, what percentage is the earth element, and so on. Really just look at the percentage and the actual element. This is key. The other aspects are not so important for this particular analysis. Now, the focus point is the weakest element. Yeah, here 12% is the metal element. For you, it may be a different element. Yeah, for this particular example, the metal element is the weakest. And this then basically tells you what your weakness is, why you are not succeeding, or where you are constantly actually kind of bumping against the wall. Now, you can obviously also use this to analyze your rivals or your competitors. So if you know your rival's birth date, probably not the hour, but you may know their birth dates. You can plot their chart and see where their weaknesses are, and this is where you then attack, yeah, in a business sense. But for now, just look at your own weakness, and then we can analyze what actually needs to be done and what you need to strengthen. So if your weakest element is the water element, then basically you don't really know the right people. You lack support from the right people. So you may think that you have supportive people around you, but they're not really the right people for the task. So you may actually need to look for different noble people, what we call them in Chinese metaphysics. You may have to look for different mentors, for different supporters, either within your organization, or just for different business partners or additional business partners. You may also lack a clear vision for the future. Yeah, so you may be getting distracted by a lot of really non-important things in your life. And so therefore you lack focus, you lack direction, you lack clarity. So what you need to develop is a very, very clear strategy for the future. Now, you can do just a very, very clear strategy for a year out or for 5 years out, but whatever it is, you need to be very, very clear about what it is that you want to achieve. Because this is your weakness, yeah? You never really have a clear focus. You don't have a clear vision for the future. And because you don't have a clear vision, you also don't know who the people are that you need to make this vision happen, to make this future a reality. Yeah, so there's two things that you need to work on. Really gain clarity over what you want, and then devise a strategy based on those focus points, on this vision, and then amass the right people around you to support you in this particular strategy. Now, if fire is your weakest element, then you seem to always kind of be either behind the times or you are ahead of the times in such a way that you act too soon. Yeah, you're never actually in sync with the timing or with the markets. Yeah, the environment here that we're talking about is the economy, is the market. So you're out of sync with the market and you're out of sync with the timing. You fail to make use of the current trends, either because you're still stuck, you're always stuck in a past trend, and you kind of try to revive that when it's no longer usable, when it's become obsolete, or you are maybe a visionary and you are trying to tap into a trend that you know is coming but hasn't actually happened yet. So you're slightly off. So you do not really know how to time yourself, how to time your actions when you launch. And this then leads to maybe a launch of a product or a service or of your own brand that is not timed correctly. So when you strike, or when you launch something, or when you plan for a growth spurt, you are not in sync with what the market actually demands. And in terms of career, it means that you may very often just say or do the wrong thing at the wrong time and to the wrong person. So your timing is off. You really kind of need to get in sync with the market, with your environment, or with your organizational environment, and then time your actions. Yeah, maybe ask someone to help you with that as well, because you're always slightly off, either behind or way ahead. Now, if your weakest element is the earth element, this has to do with feng shui. If your feng shui is bad, if your location is bad, then you cannot succeed. So very often, we kind of, when we look for a shop space or an office location, we go for the cheapest. But there's a reason for why this is cheap. It's usually because the feng shui is bad and nobody else wants to rent it, and therefore the landlord just drops the rent. So if you focus on the cheapest rental or on the cheapest location, it will not support your business or your career. If you are working from home, don't go for the cheapest flat that you can find. Again, there is a reason for why it is cheap. Obviously, don't go for something that you absolutely cannot afford, but find a middle ground, because the location needs to support you and it will support you. Find a good location. Yeah, in war itself, and in a competitive situation, location is very important. This can even have to do with the seating in a meeting that you're taking. Yeah, there it then comes down to Zimendunzia analysis as to where you need to sit in a particular meeting that is very, very high stakes. But at this point, basically, if the earth element is weakest in your Bazi chart, you always compromise on location. And this is then usually your professional downfall. Yeah, so make sure that you change something about that. Now, if your metal element is the weakest, then it has to do with your leadership skills. Yeah, you don't have the right skills or the right capabilities to become a leader. So you really need to work on upskilling, on adding new skill sets to your existing skill sets, and work on your leadership skills. Because if you cannot lead, you're finished, especially in a war. Yeah, and not in an actual war, but in a competitive environment in the economy where we're all sort of fighting some wars. We are constantly fighting against competitors or against colleagues who want to take a particular position that we are vying for. So we're always in a competition with someone. Yeah. And so if metal is your weakest element, then you simply lack the skills to advance further or to win a certain battle. And your task is to upskill and to acquire the capabilities and the abilities you need to become an effective leader, an effective manager. And then lastly, if you have the wood as the weakest element, then what is lacking is discipline. Most of the time it's discipline that's lacking, yeah? Or your strategies are just not the best. Yeah, so you're not very familiar with the rules, with the regulations, so you're just kind of muddling through, kind of like, okay, well, I'm not quite sure what the regulations are, but I'm just going to do this and I fix it later on. But this may get you in trouble. Yeah, so you need to know what are the rules in your particular industry or in your particular organization. What are the laws? What is the structure? What are the standard operational procedures that you need to follow? And obviously, once you know those, you then also know the gray areas in which you can operate. But you need a lot of discipline. You really need to find out what's the framework that everybody else is working in. Does it serve you or not? And then find the gray areas that are not quite that regulated, but within which you may actually find your way to the top or your way to success. Yeah, and through this entire process, you really need to become much, much more methodical, much, much more strategic, and much more disciplined in how you approach what you want to achieve. Yeah, if you want to, I mean, even if you're on a diet, if you have no discipline at all, it's not going to work. You're not going to lose weight. So you need to create a plan, a diet plan or an exercise plan, and then actually stick to it. Yeah, and then every once in a while you can have a cheat day. Yeah, that gray area, but just one. So this is essentially what is needed if you have the weakest element in as wood. So you can apply that in a business sense, in a business context. Find a method, find a discipline, find a framework, work within that to actually achieve your goals. All right. So this is just a very, very brief intro in the 5 decisive factors of war according to Sun Tzu's Art of War. And if you like that, let me know. I can provide more content on this. It's a very, very interesting subject matter, especially once you go into the 36 stratagems and how they are reflected in your Bazi chart. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got something out of this. If you have any questions, any comments, you can contact me directly or just put it in the comment section below. And I would love it if you liked the video, if you shared the video, and subscribe to my channel. See you soon.